Hey, 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 it's Mike Payne and friends, Brody and Daniel. Hey. Okay, that's my fat Albert for the day. All right, well, we're ready to podcast again today. Just like to give a shout out to our suppliers. That would be Velux, the guys up here, and Certainty. There we are. Woo!
Hey, Certainteed. Certainteed's the bomb.
Love
I like the gray
Certainteed.
ones a little bit more, though, to
yeah.
be totally honest. I like the gray.
Sweet. Yeah. No, I like that too.
They've
Yeah.
given us quite a variety of merchandise over the years, hey?
They are very good about handing out the merch to their favorite installers. And
Yes, indeed.
but let's not forget the world's greatest boss
Bing,
cup.
bing, bing, bing.
I bought that for myself on Amazon.
Hey, you once bought me a cup that said I was the greatest roofer. Or I was a terrific roofer.
Terrific roofer.
I remember Trump was on that cup,
Yeah.
actually, also. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Good cup.
All the
Yeah.
Trump mannerisms.
Yeah.
That was funny.
There's a
That was a good
personal
one.
name on there. Yeah, I like that. And I forget exactly how he worded it, but it's all Trumpy how he did it. So today we're going to be talking about, should you get your roof done in the new year? And that's a question. I guess it's a pretty loaded question. I think that you don't have to be an expert to know if your roof has been, damaged in a way. I mean, it's good to get a close look at it when you're like cleaning out your eaves troughs or something. But if you see damage on it, it's pretty obvious. It's not really. I mean, if the shingles don't look good, that's your first indicator. And I would say that if you notice that you have an issue on your roof, that's when you give a roofer a call just to see how bad it is. Because we actually have a person that'll be hiring us pretty soon about a bad installation from his installers. But we're going to go there and we're just going to find out, is it good for 5 years? Is it good for 1 year? Like how long is it going to hold up?
Is this, in other words, is this, how do I put it? Did you send me an email regarding this job, I guess is what I'm asking? Because I do remember you saying that we had a client or a potential client who would like an inspection regarding ventilation error, and you're saying that the previous re-roof crew didn't have the expertise in order to solve the issues that the client was seeing. Are we talking about the same person?
That's another one. Yeah, that's another one. So we're getting these calls. But this one here is basically he thinks that the whole roof needs to get replaced and it's going to be going to court. It's going to get nasty. I don't think there's really any winners in court. But for some, you got to kind of determine what it's worth to go through the process. And some people just kind of have a vendetta and they just want the right thing to happen, which is fine by me. But the best thing you do is just hire a roofing company that is going to take good care of you. It's not going to screw around, and hopefully just do it right the first time. Just for in terms of like, does a roof need to get done? I mean, if it's leaking, it might be a good indication that it needs to get done. This time of year, we get a lot of new roofs leaking, but it's due to the condensation going on. So it's not always the rule. If you see your shingles are curled up, flapping in the wind, starting to kind of get a tattered look, or just making your house look like crap, I think that's a good time to, consider, getting a roof done.
Right. So in other words, the very first indication would be the appearance of it. I guess this time of year it's a little difficult to see the majority of the roof area, considering the amount of snowfall that we get, but a visual indication would be a good place to start.
Right, and that goes to the next point. If you do want an inspection to be done on your roof, you got to wait for it to at least be, have the snow melted off. So it's a challenging time of year.
Chinook. Wait for Chinook.
Yeah, something like kind of what we got going on right now. I would say that anybody buying a house right now should be pretty skeptical of their roof inspector. Or the home inspector, usually they'll fly a drone up there or something like that. But it's like, if there's snow all over it, then how do you tell if it's good?
Yeah, that's been something I've gone into a few times on the podcast. Just different clients describing to me how they've had the roof inspected when they purchased the home. So they had a home inspector. And I always say this is not to knock home inspectors, but they have a lot on their plate. They have a long list of inspection points. Sometimes they'll just poke their head up in the attic, and most of the time they're not going to go up onto the roof. Some will, mind you, but with the clients I've spoken with, a lot of times, there is a lot of neglect in terms of a roof inspection. So hiring somebody more specialized in roof inspections would certainly be the best course of action.
I think so. Yeah. Anyway, it depends on the roof inspector, or not roof inspector, but home inspector you're getting.
Yeah.
Some of them are much higher quality than others.
Of course.
And I think a home inspector would be worth his weight in gold, but he also can give you a false sense of security in a lot of ways. But I think that if any good home inspector will say, hey, look, I couldn't look at this, or I couldn't look at this or that because of this. So, just let the homeowner know the risk. These days, a roof isn't cheap. Things have gone up quite a bit. Seems like the average price nowadays is around $12,000 to $15,000. Going over $20,000 for your bigger roofs.
Oh, I thought you meant for a home inspection at first.
No,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So if the inspector doesn't do a good job or can't see the roof, you got to be ready for, hey, you might be forking out $15,000 if there's something wrong with your roof.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the proactive approach. If you don't have a warranty on your roof anymore, it's probably better just to replace it, because if you get a bad leak or something like that, then it's going to wreck everything inside. So now your $15,000 project could turn into a $30,000 project or something like that.
Yeah, of course. A lot of people see, or in other words, have a desire to renovate the interior or upgrade this, upgrade that. Whereas, as you're saying yourself, if there is any detrimental, if the roof is in poor condition, that could lead to an excess of expenses in terms of repairing everything that you just spent all this money on either upgrading or repairing. So the roof is certainly, first and foremost, I guess, the most important part in safeguarding your home against potential damage.
Right. Yeah. No. I've seen homeowners in my day. That's not very often, but there's a few of them where they replaced all the floors, and then they didn't have enough money to replace the roof, and then the roof leaked, and then they had damaged floors. So it's like now you're doing the job twice. And fixing damaged floors, especially when you got like a hardwood or even some of these like laminated ones that just soak up and turn to garbage, can be quite a deal to fix after the fact. Getting the exact same finish, the exact same look can be pretty tough for a floor. So if you get a little damage in one spot of the floor, you might be replacing the whole floor. So.
Yeah, that would be a real pain. I could just imagine the look on a client's face, or anybody's face for that matter, after spending all that money on an interior renovation and then seeing obviously a lot of damage come from the heavens, right?
Right.
And you mentioned the damage to the floor, but now you're looking at potential insulation removal and replacement depending on the scope of the damage.
Oh, it's just, yeah.
Obviously, the drywall and the ceiling could be affected. Even the framing of the attic itself, the trussing can be also in poor condition because of enough water exposure. So,
well, sometimes those leaks can run right down a support wall, and they'll go right down to the basement. So you'll have 2 layers of house, 2 floors of house that need renovations to do. So, yeah, it's that's why it's good to be a roofer in some ways. We get and we should get priority when it comes to renovations in a house.
Yeah, exactly. So to answer the question, why should you consider getting a roof replaced in the new year? I mean, yeah, if you are looking at current home renovations, I mean, you said yourself it'd be wise to prioritize the roof over all else. At the very least, do an inspection. And if you're not capable of that, at least try to get yourself up into the attic and see if there's any noticeable damage or wear and tear, rot, mold. There's a long list of things that can be spotted inside the attic.
Yeah, no, that actually takes a lot of the liability off of the homeowner in a way. I mean, in terms of just liability for injuries is going inside the attic, because getting on the roof is pretty dangerous. But if you can get inside the attic, usually you can see a water staining or rotten wood or things that are damaged or whatever. So yeah, the attic is actually I would say a lot of the time maybe even more important than just getting on the roof and checking that.
Yeah, I can agree with that also in a way, because, for example, I'd do roof inspections where they had noticed, say, a leak in one area of the home, and upon roof inspection or an exterior inspection, I'd find blown off shingles in other areas of the house, right down to the plywood, totally waterlogged, or I guess you'd see just that pale gray plywood from all the exposure, yet they had not experienced a leak in that area of the home, right? So, I mean, again, seeing what's going on inside the attic and seeing what you have in terms of ventilation and everything else, insulation, I mean, might be more important than seeing the actual condition of the roof itself. If you're, well, you need both points of inspection, but in the short term, you could certainly verify certain condensation issues or leak potential from inside the attic without the roof inspection itself. So.
Right. Yeah, and there's actually a lot of things you can tell just from the ground without getting on the roof. I've had people, call me in for a hail inspection, and first thing I do is I check the soft metals like your eaves troughs and your downspouts and things like that. And if there's no denting on those, like there's no hail damage on the top of your roof. There's even things you can tell from the ground.
Yeah. Of course.
But that being said, there's some caveats like maybe the eaves troughs are older and they've been dented and the roof got replaced and not the eaves troughs. So sometimes you do have to get up on the roof. But if you know that your eaves troughs were fine before and they're dented now, well, then it's probably a good idea to check that roof for hail damage. And checking a roof for hail damage is not exactly as straightforward as some people would think. There could be
it can be difficult to discern between, say, obvious hail damage and then just wear and tear. Granules will become loose over time. You have critters running all over the roof in some cases.
Right.
It can be hard to differentiate sometimes. So, I mean, it's better off to assume it's hail damage rather than, say, just something caused by a branch or a squirrel or something of that nature.
You could also get installation damage too. You may not have been aware of,
Right.
roofers walking around on the roof when it was too hot. You might be scraping the shingles or something like that. But one thing I found with insurance claims is that sometimes insurance is a little bit too quick to say this is hail or this is not hail. But it's like at the same time, I mean, sometimes you just have to assume that it's hail because, both neighbors got replaced. I mean, nobody was actually there on the roof when the hail happened and was able to tell if it, if this was a hail hit or if this is a manufacturer defect or something like that. That can be tough to also determine.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you said yourself, soft metals are a telltale.
Exactly.
Sign.
Yeah. So if you have if you have a bunch of damaged soft metal, then I mean you kind of have to assume that all these dents are also from the hail. Yeah.
Precisely. Sometimes I always hope to find tin goosenecks and whirlybirds, soft tin whirlybirds, things like that during hail inspections because they make it much, much easier to discern,
Right.
as opposed to, say, like a hard polypropylene type plastic vent.
Yeah, they kind of hide the
which
hide
will
the damage.
crack with
Yeah.
a hard enough blow, but much, much easier to tell with a soft metal product.
Totally. Yeah. I think that something that a lot of people don't know is that most roofs require a reseal after about 15 years. After about 15 years, the adhesives, tend to let loose, and you'll see on a windy day they'll start flapping. Or if you lose even one shingle on your roof, it might be like a sign of things to come. But what's interesting though with a reseal, when you reseal a roof, it only costs most cases a couple $1,000, and it can keep your roof life going for quite a while after.
Surprisingly, yeah. I mean, there's been some 3-tab roofs that I've inspected where I noticed the seals are broken in many cases, but I don't see any serious hail damage. I don't see any serious wear and tear, yet the roof is pretty well 20 years old. And with a reseal, even though the asphalt product itself is near 20 years old, I would definitely be comfortable with a reseal and expecting another 5, dare I say, maybe 10 years if you're on top of the general maintenance periodically. I mean, with a roof of that age, I'd say at least once a year. For myself, it'd probably be much more than that, probably twice a year. But you can definitely get or extend the lifespan of the roof itself.
Well, I think another thing that plays into a big factor of it all is how well the underlayments were applied. I mean, if you're going to put 30-pound felt on the base and not do a full wrap with a synthetic underlay, you could be comfortable and say, yeah, this roof should go about 20 years. But I think that's why they've increased the amount of roof life up to 50 years on some products, just because of the underlayment. So if you have a good paper job and it's you know it's solid, then yeah, a nice reseal after 15 years, you might get another 40 or 35 years out of it. But most manufacturers stop holding the wind warranty after about 15 years. Most of them go at 11. CertainTeed goes at 15. But there are some extras to CertainTeed which I like, because they say, well, I mean, if they weren't nailed properly or something like that and they blow off, then you're covered for 25 years. So, but yeah, most people should know that they're going to need to do a reseal after about 15 years, or maybe even less.
I think the climate plays a pretty big role in that, if not the biggest role, because I feel like areas closer to the border probably don't have that same issue, right? I mean, minus the fluctuations in temperature, I feel like if it was a balmy 20 degrees year round, I feel like there'd be much less potential for these seals to give over time.
Right. Yeah, and they could be in a wind sheltered area too. I mean, we even have them in here in Calgary, like little areas where the wind never gets over, like 90 kilometers an hour or whatever, just because there's nice trees and other houses blocking all the wind. But then there's some houses where you see they're on like the top of a hill with no wind exposure, or nothing to protect them from wind exposure. Usually where you have to be careful with the wind is when you see the Rocky Mountains, a nice clear view of the Rockies. And yeah, if you have that elevation and nothing blocking the wind, I say that you would probably want to consider just, tapping them down during first day of installation. Putting a little bit extra sealants, I think, would go a long ways.
I actually was involved in that type of procedure. This is when I worked with RCH Roofing. I actually Googled them the other day. They are still active. But this was, I don't know where, but it was certainly out in towards the mountains. Full exposure, 360 degrees, no tree coverage whatsoever. And yeah, we did have somebody there with an asphalt-based sealant tabbing each shingle as we did the installation. So
that's smart.
Curious as to how that roof's doing now, because this was probably 2015 or so when I did that roof. So
I imagine it's doing pretty good. If they, just got to make sure you don't blob too much of it down too, because it'll bleed through. But I remember a job that I went to, and I got to be the superhero in a way. Had something like 5 other roofers come there to try to fix this damn thing, and it just kept blowing off because it was one of those cases where it's on the top of the hill. And yeah, you got to glue down every single shingle. That's how you make sure they don't blow off anymore.
Sometimes it's the obvious, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, hey, you need extra sealant in this case. Unfortunately, not every roofer has the wits about them, right?
Yeah, they a lot of times just want to come in and make a quick buck, but then they
Yeah.
end up looking stupid afterwards because then their shingles blow off, and then the homeowner's upset.
And they have no choice but to fold, to change the business name,
Yeah.
do it all over again, right?
Right. Oh,
You
yeah.
hear too many companies doing things like that, unfortunately.
Ugh.
Cutting their losses and, hitting the reset button. That would be, it's a disservice to the client, of course. I mean, that's something I preach almost to, every client that I come across that is in need of a warranty service of some sort. Like today, for example, I certainly reassure them, or I guess I help to create some level of comfortability moving forward by letting them know that you have nothing to worry about. You are covered by the workmanship warranty, and we stand by these warranties. You got nothing to worry about. Some people are a little crabbier than others, of course. Oh, you got to come back. You did it. Well, you have to come and make changes. Blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I understand that the discern towards it not being done the first time properly. But again, it really does go a long way for me to explain to them that they are covered by warranty. And be verbal about it. You know, that we stand by our warranties, and it's very important to us, and that they would be prioritized as well. So.
Well, I don't think we've ever left a client behind in that sense. Yeah, some of them might be a little bit grumbly, but especially with our condensation work, it's sometimes it's just not possible to get it in the first time. Sometimes there's just we try something and we might have to make an adjustment later down the road, and that's why not a lot of people, but some of these people have not checked the attic to make sure that the issue is resolved, which is something we say by standard. You got to check the attic, make sure everything's been that the frost has been resolved, because sometimes it's not just the ventilation. Sometimes it needs to be it could be a building envelope issue or something.
Right. Well, insulation levels, I think, might be the biggest player in terms of condensation.
Right.
Because even with inadequate ventilation or lack of airflow, without adequate dispersion, I guess, or dispersal, I should say, of heat that radiates from the ceiling itself, if it's able to pass through the insulation, then that would be the biggest contributor in terms of introducing heat and moisture from the home into the attic space.
Well, yeah, when you go from a comfortable 20 degrees inside, and then it just gets to the insulation too fast and freezes, then I mean you can only have condensation. So yeah, the slower it takes to condensate,
Right.
The more the ventilation is going to be able to take that away and get it out of the house.
I also think it would be wise for us to add an additional disclaimer to some of our invoices or even estimates for that reason, because you do preach to clients about periodically checking their attic space during cold snaps in order to obviously take note on how much frost you're seeing and whether or not the repairs have had or upgrades have had any impact. But even a well-ventilated, well-insulated home will see levels of frost inside the attic no matter what. And that's what some clients, I think, are confused about sometimes, because even some inspections that I've done where I find at least R50 in terms of insulation, I find adequate ventilation, even though it's the box vents, low-profile box vents. There's enough of them. We have adequate air intake and exhaust, still seeing certain amounts of frost because of the climate that we're in.
Yeah, I think a surface level amount of frost, so there might be acceptable levels, but I've also been in lots of attics that were bone dry, not a trace of frost, and it was unbearably cold outside. So I think there is solutions to the issue. The problem with those box vents, and that's why I always by standard tell people just get rid of them, because they don't utilize the wind in all directions. The wind has to blow either X or Y direction. If it blows a different direction during a cold snap, then they're not ventilating, or snow covers them over, and then you don't have any suction going through basically suction anyway through the attic space. That's why the WeatherPro ventilators are just a must for every house.
Yeah, I think they're necessary. Although I do think that these low-profile box vents do stand a better chance on a steep pitch, because we would have a lot less snow coverage, and I think that's the only real damper in terms of installing these units in this climate is the snowfall that we get. So I do feel like if we are on a 12-12 or higher, you could probably get away with keeping those box vents in place, although I will always try to, I don't want to say convince, but I do give strong points as to why the WeatherPro ventilator would be a wise upgrade.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I do try to, being transparent with the client is important, and I don't want to just constantly try to upsell everybody. But in this case, like I say, these vents.
Yeah, but when it comes to upselling, I think the way I look at it is that what would I want from my roof? When I see, I just bought this house here, which actually happens to have a condensation issue, which I'm looking forward to resolving.
Right.
First thing I look at when I see is I want WeatherPro ventilators on that house. And so that's basically what I tell people is if this was my house, I would want WeatherPro ventilators. If this was my house, I would want airtight HVACs, going to, better goosenecks. If it was my house, I would want R60 up there, other things, if it was my house and I'm re-roofing it, I would want that decking replaced or not, so that's, it's technically an upsell, but I would never recommend selling anything that the client doesn't need, and you have to put yourself in the term or in the position of the homeowner themselves.
I should rephrase, I suppose, because I didn't mean it to sound like I don't try to push the pro ventilators, because I certainly do. I do lend some credence to the fact that they do have a very steep pitch and that there would be less snow coverage because of that. For that reason, these low-profile box vents would have a better chance at circulating air even throughout heavy snowfall.
Well,
the pro ventilators would be sure to fully ventilate the attic space any time of year.
Pull the air from all different directions. That's what you got to determine is if you got 1,000 square feet of attic, and then you have it's a steep pitch, and you have 4 box vents on there. They do 250 square feet each, so that's 1,000. So I would say yeah, you technically have enough right now. We can put more box vents in, or you can go the better way, which I would say put in a Weather Pro ventilator. If they're having issues. If they're not having issues, then there's no point in saying anything. But that's the way I would do it personally.
I agree. We did have a question roll in.
Okay.
While we were chatting away. That was Daniel himself who commented.
All right. What do we got?
Is the recession going to increase prices next year? We'll leave that up to the boss to answer.
Well, it is. Here's the thing. I've never seen the price of a roof go down. So what I think is going to happen for in the event of a recession is that we're going to have stability in prices. And we may even have the potential to come down in prices just for the fact that gas prices are coming down, and it might cost less for us to drive around and get from point A to point B. My hope is that we can bring prices down, but like I said, I've never seen the price of a bundle ever come down. Like the shingle manufacturers, they just get very entrenched. They're very they're competitive, and they just even in like the 2008 crash and all that happened. Prices of a bundle just stayed the exact same, and then but it is very much supply and demand. So if we can cut prices and get and still be able to profit, then yeah, we could see prices coming down maybe this year, but the trend is always the prices going up. So 10 years ago rates were something like for subcontractors anyway, it was like something like $19 a bundle. Now they're paying them like $40 a bundle 10 years, so 10 years from now it's going to go from 40 to, probably 60 or something like that. So I would say that, the economy is I've been trying to predict the markets for many years, and it's a very difficult thing to do and to say that this is going to be the year of a recession. It could be argued that, we've already had the recession. Now because the market's been down for something like 9 years or something, or not 9 years, 9 months, and this is like one of the first years on record where, in over 20 years or something like that, where we actually had a negative return for the year. So, it's a rare thing, and it doesn't necessarily. So technically, we've already kind of gone through this bump in the road, and I would say that next year very well could be another inflationary year. So it's we'll have to wait and see what happens. But after this does resolve itself, we're definitely going to another inflationary cycle.
So in other words, the sooner the better in terms of roof replacement, because there is no safeguarding against an increase of material costs. Well, I guess same would go for any trade for that matter. So
very, very well. It's always going up, always in the long term. So I would say, I advise so many people, like even 2 years ago, saying, hey, better get it done now than later. And they really kicked themselves later down the road, and eventually they did hire us still, but our prices were up thousands of dollars from when we had initially quoted. So I think we're just going to see stability. So really the homeowner has to evaluate whether if they get a $5,000 repair bill because they had a bunch of damages, then was it really worth it waiting for prices to come down? I would say no. So it's good for a homeowner to be proactive. Not wait for it to become an emergency, because once you're in an emergency, now you're in a position of trying to make a split-second decision. You don't have time to really weigh your options, and then you just be put into a desperate situation where you just end up paying more money.
Right. Ain't that a laugh?
Ain't that a kick in the head?
There's nothing you can do. Things get more expensive as time goes on. The manufacturing process stays the same, but demand fluctuates. The cost of raw materials, I think, is the biggest issue. Like asphalt-based shingles, like some fiberglass reinforced, some not. But regardless, the raw cost or the cost for these raw materials is always going up. So
always, it's historical. Going back 100 years from like if you take a look at, I think the price of an oil barrel back in the 1930s was $1. And then it topped out in just recently at like 120, something like that, a barrel. So if we're gonna go off that trend, price of a barrel of oil determines the price of basically everything. So, will we one day see barrels of oil over $200? I mean, at this rate, I think it's inevitability.
Well, as that resource dwindles, I think it's an inevitability, of course, and they're going to have to switch to prices of bundles of shingles. Actually, they're probably going to just do away with the oil being the
The petrodollar, no more petrodollar.
Right.
The bundle dollar.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Hey, who knows? Hey, who knows? Yeah. But it might be a grim future we will see for ourselves. But on the positive note, though, I did see $1.13 for gas.
I did too. Yeah,
wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Right.
that's wild. Been going on like 180, 170 the last few months.
Crazy.
So.
Yeah,
That was nice.
Nice to see a break in prices. On the,
Yeah.
on the,
Do you
on the pump.
remember? Do you remember 54 cents? Do you remember that? That was.
Oh
wild.
my God, that was insane.
I
Yeah.
still have jerry cans full of gas in my garage.
Oh, really?
From those days. Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, I did, but I wasn't smart enough to buy any gas stabilizers. So
Oh.
I mean, but it still works. I run my chainsaw off it. My chainsaw runs like a beast. So
Sweet, man. Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember watching oil futures there. It went to like negative $30 a barrel. They were just dumping the oil. They couldn't. They were like boats were at the ports, and they weren't able to get rid of the oil because nobody was there to buy it. Very interesting times, but it was kind of a no-brainer. Get it while it was cheap.
just dump it in the ocean, light it on fire.
Oh, right. They're just like an all natural. What about Nemo?
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, I mean, no, money's more important, isn't it? So they would say. So some would say.
Mhm.
That's tongue-in-cheek, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. I do have a fish tank, and I care deeply for those fish.
Yeah.
Oil is not a good mix.
Sure. Have you tried?
Just
Just simulate an oil spill?
Documentaries.
Okay.
I watched Deepwater Horizon not long ago. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a Mark Wahlberg movie, but it's a movie based on true events of like the Deepwater Horizon oil rig that exploded in the Gulf of Mexico. It's the world record oil leak.
Oh, yeah.
They made a theatrical movie about it, and looking into the aftermath, it was certainly detrimental for the ecosystem. While the ecosystem, I suppose, doesn't pertain directly
Sad.
or specifically to the ocean, but the reef certainly suffered in those areas.
Right, man. Well, I mean, I guess that's we can only do our part, recycle and stuff.
Yeah, recycle. Buy a Tesla, but then again, you look into lithium battery production and how detrimental that is. It's like no matter what you do, you're screwing with the planet. No matter what you do, that's how it seems, anyways.
Just go plant some trees, man.
Yeah, plant some trees. I saw a video for like a record-setting tree planter. I can't remember the numbers, but it was somebody who could plant. He planted like 20,000 trees in a day or something like that.
Wow.
He had a crazy system to do it, where it was just like one every 2 seconds, basically, all day.
Wow.
How many seconds are in 12 hours?
We need to plant more trees, man. Yeah, I think let's get more people trying to, set world records for planting trees. The world be a better place, maybe.
I think it would. You know what? If everybody considered having their roof replaced in 2023, I think the world would also be a better place. If they called No Pain Roofing more specifically, I think they would certainly do better off with the new roof than they would the current roof, even if it's brand new.
Yeah, I know. We need more people getting roofs done for sure. We need to go to Hawaii. Fund a trip to Hawaii.
Have a luau.
Yeah, that's why we think of that one social media thing we're gonna do. Go on the
Oh,
road.
right. That'll be fun. We're gonna wait for a Chinook for that, or no?
No way. We gotta be cold. We're gonna put up our signs. Help send us to Hawaii.
Hey, why not? Yeah, hire No Pain. Send us on vacation.
Well, let's check through the Instagram there. Maybe we can find some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, hey, surprise everybody. Look, our Instagram's up on the big screen. So yeah, we're looking at reasons why you should consider getting your roof replaced in the new year. And we went over quite a few different reasons, but I mean, here's a good example right here. So we're looking at heavy amounts of condensation. This is from inside the home, obviously a cold spot detected on the ceiling. Not only because of the lack of insulation slightly in some areas, but more so because of the large amount of frost that we're seeing build up inside the attic space. So again, this wouldn't be the typical frost that you'd expect to see if you did have adequate ventilation and insulation and all that.
Well, this
This
house
is
here,
fairly heavy buildup.
yeah, this house here was one of the most expensive houses in Calgary. I think it's like something like a $50 million home or something like that. And yeah, it's also a historical building. And yeah, no, it's never good to see that amount of frost inside your attic space.
Right. I mean, as I was saying, I guess as you're saying, there is a fine line between acceptable amounts of frost in the attic and then amounts that certainly warrant an issue or need for repair. And
Yeah,
I guess,
that's too thick. I honestly always want to see a bone dry attic, but if you got a little bit of surface frost going on, like a little like a glisten in the light, I don't think that's worth addressing because it's not going to drip and hit this insulation. But if your insulation's getting soaked, then you don't want to. You got to resolve that because your whole house is going to get rotten from the inside out.
No doubt. Well, another big player here in terms of condensation and frost buildup is insulation, as we had said. It is worth noting that No Pain Roofing does indeed do insulation top-ups. We have good buddy Nolan Benedetti in the attic, in this case, doing the top-up. As you can see, the trusses are visible in the lower points right around where his foot is. That should be at least buried by 14 inches of insulation because that stands about 6 inches tall where his foot is. That should have another at least 14 inches above it if you want to be close to the R60 value. So in this case, we had a pretty severe lack of insulation in this attic space.
Well, that's a Mike Holmes tip for anybody who knows who Mike Holmes is that if you can see the trusses, or not, that's not the trusses, sorry, would they be the trusses?
I'd consider them because, I mean, they're trusses on the upper section of the roof.
Yeah.
Framing, I mean, that's the thing, I guess. It's kind of difficult to... You could get picky with it, but it is framing, trussing.
Yeah, if you can see, basically, if you can see the the framing for your ceiling, we'll just say, above the insulation, then you definitely have an insulation problem. Like, you need that framing to be totally covered.
Let's see if we can find some other photos here inside the attic. I know we definitely have quite a few. There's a wide variety of content on our Instagram for those of you who don't very often scroll our Instagram page. We sure do have quite a load of information. Well, since we're on the topic of insulation, we could look at how problematic this is in this case.
Yeah, it's too much insulation.
Right, so in this case, we have batt insulation installed above a vaulted ceiling. And vaulted ceilings typically use batt insulation because the loose fill insulation can easily roll down slope, create bald spots or just an inadequate depth.
I know all about bald spots.
Didn't see that coming. But yeah, in this case, so here's another kind of photo showing, I guess, the issue here from a different angle. The batt insulation was packed much too tight in these areas, so we have contact between the ceiling inside the home and the outer decking of the roof itself, so heat can very easily transfer from the ceiling into the insulation, from the insulation into the roof decking, and cause ice damming.
All that plywood was basically rotten, and manufacturer recommends in like areas like this about 3 inches from the decking. Code says 1 inch from the decking. But I think an inch to 3 is just fine. It just needs an airspace to bring all that air through.
Right, and I think that is the biggest cause. Like, I think as we've touched on before, 9 times out of 10 when we find major ice damming, it is because of insulation heat transfer.
Yep.
Very seldom is it a lack of exhaust, or in other terms, lack of ventilation overall.
Right.
But yeah,
that's a bad one.
Insulation would certainly be the biggest player. This is a bad one.
That's scary. Yeah, that one there is like I'd be losing it if that was my house, because like I've seen there. Actually, I went to this big old mansion and I go to the attic hatch and I go up inside the guy's roof and to check around, and it was just raining. Like I went up there, it was like a rainstorm, and I was like, and he's like got this like face on. I'm like, dude, like, how are you not freaking out right now? Like, how? And he's like, I don't know, man. Just please save my house. And we just put on a ton of pro ventilators and haven't heard back from him. So I think we must have fixed the issue.
Well, he must have really deep pockets, I suppose. If he
I
wasn't
mean,
too worried about it.
He was very worried about it. But I mean, for his big old mansion, it was a few $1,000s to get at it. So I mean, that's a small price to pay to fix an issue like that.
Indeed. I was looking at this photo here. This is one that I took This shows the improper use of an exhaust vent. This was the Duraflow Pro 50 exhaust vent being used as an air intake vent. Typically, we have the most frost and ice snow buildup at the lowest point of the roof slope, so on the eave ends. For that reason, we have a lot of snow movement with heavy winds and whatnot, and these vents can certainly allow for a lot of snow to enter the attic space.
Yeah.
And clearly the result here was a large amount of snow pile up inside the attic.
Yeah.
So I scurried down the ladder and I asked the client for a garbage bag so I could scoop a lot of this out, and I sure did, and we sure did get a job out of this.
Yeah, no, good to get the first step is just get it out of there.
Right. So this is another photo here showing not only a major condensation, frost, ice buildup inside the attic, but simultaneously showing why airtight HVAC systems in the attic are a must.
Pretty important.
Maybe,
yeah.
Mike, you could describe what we're looking at here.
Yeah, that's to me it looks like a bathroom vent, and it looks like it's kind of like it doesn't have really like an insulated sleeve on there. So what'll happen, especially with metal, is that it conducts the warmth from the inside out. So your attic can be minus 40. So yeah, it just freezes solid like that as you pump warm air through it. So as we've learned, the solution for something like that is you want to run the pipe vertically through the insulation for a couple feet, tilt it away from the bathroom fan.
Horizontally.
Horizontally, yeah, through the insulation, then run it vertically out of the roof.
Right.
And just make sure that is all well insulated. And then and I like a nice R60 piled on top of the unit and the HVAC itself. And yeah, then that won't happen anymore.
If we had a different angle of this same system, I would also bet that we have a less than airtight seal where the exhaust pipe, in this case, meets the exhaust port on the roof.
Yeah.
As you can see, some of these icicles are coming from the side of the pipe, seeping like through the pipe itself, but others, I think...
that thing is just frozen solid.
Right,
Yeah.
so I often find in some cases the exhaust pipe will just be kind of shoved up inside the hole in the decking. Of course, not airtight whatsoever, but a lot of that moisture, heat from the exhaust pipe or hose itself will escape into the attic and cause large amounts of frost and ice buildup.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually did at one point find an icicle like the size of my forearm from my elbow.
Oh, wow.
And as thick and as long, like a huge one. And this is obviously a sign here that the client was using their fans religiously, which is also something that we recommend.
Yep.
But what he didn't know is that a lot of that heat and moisture was escaping into the attic.
And when you get icicles like that, it generally means you've probably been in like a deep freeze for probably a couple weeks.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just accumulating and accumulating. Another thing like we need to brag up a little is we have thermal cameras, so we can, you can see like a picture right there. That's we can see that whole area was not insulated.
This was that same home that had that pile of snow in the attic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is that same.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, you can have all the ventilation in the world and all this stuff, but if you don't have insulation, you're going to get permafrost right there like that. That's all going to be garbage if you don't insulate that soon.
Right. I don't remember if this client moved forward with the insulation top-up or not, but
I'm sure he
was
might have done it himself.
certainly advised to do so. Oh, let's see what else we can see here. Oh, picture of yours truly.
Oh,
I
there you
miss
are.
those days. Oh, that was the Hawk. That was a Hawkwood house.
Oh yeah.
That was Hawkwood. That was a fun time. Managing a crew. That was good. Well, let's see if there's anything else. Here's another. I guess this is more of a general photo, but in this case, I would say that you might have a lack of baffles. Sometimes they do extend farther than what you expect to see, but I guess this would just be a testament to the rotten plywood changeouts that we choose to do during re-roofs. And I know that all of the re-roof packages that we have, minus the entry-level cheapest package we have, we will certainly replace up to, what was it, 2 or 3 pieces of plywood? I can't remember what was included with the average quote.
With CertainTeed, it's for rot, not delamination, but for rot, it's unlimited. With our ICO packages, it's $150 a sheet.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. That's the thing. We do that. We'll say over 90% of roofing companies don't do. And that's the attic work. And it's really sad to see how many roofs get done and the attic isn't checked, and then the customer has nightmares. Like a job like that, if you don't address the attic issues, you know, and you roof over that, basically you have to rip the whole roof off to do, you know, to get down to it when it could have taken a quick, you know, half day to do. Then it ends up taking, you know, a week or two to fix.
I remember this photo, actually. This is where someone decided to blow in just a half bag or so in one area.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Crazy.
funny. Yeah, I found vapes and tools. Found an Xbox 360 controller once in poor, horrible condition. But I find treasures.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Inside the attic space. Yeah, so just looking at other examples here as examples of some of the issues you can find if you don't do periodic inspections and if you leave things for too long. So here's another thing we find actually fairly often as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you gotta, there's really no solution for this situation because there's, like, I mean, the grate is having the grate on there is a good idea, but when you have a dryer hooked up going out the roof, you got to go up there and clean that trap out. And if you don't, then that happens. Then you get some big time damage inside your house. Your whole, you might ruin your dryer. Your dryer could light on fire. But then the solution is like, okay, well, we'll just take the grate off and leave it off. Well, that's fine until a bird or a squirrel gets in there and makes a nest. So it's like, and then you can vent it out the side of your house. Same thing. You're going to get birds nesting in there. So so if you have a dryer vent, you're going to have to clean it out every so often. There's no way around it.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, we still do choose to remove the grill when installing Primex.
I prefer that, yeah.
Any gooseneck for that matter on the dryer exhaust, because if you remove the damper, obviously the grill would still cause a problem. But if you remove the grill and the damper, now you could have, well, much, much quicker and inevitably have bugs, animals enter the HVAC itself.
Yeah, the damper still does keep things out, but it's the lesser of evils. You know, it's like, you might get a squirrel in there, you might get a bird in there, but it's not going to be like airtight packed like that is.
Yeah.
But I think still, though, no matter what, you got to do maintenance on your dryer ducting and make sure it's all working properly.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And so another thing, one of the warranty calls I did recently that turned out not to really be a warranty issue, but of course the client wouldn't know that. Anyways, I do the inspection. We thought that he was experiencing leaking coming from the bath fan because of an improper HVAC install, improper slope or a lack of horizontal run. Problem was the damper was completely frozen shut.
Right.
So I remove the hose, I inspect everything, no issues, damper frozen completely. So I stick my hand up inside the gooseneck, pound it open, but it's a matter of time before that freezes closed again, right?
I spoke with him about that. I think the solution to that is you just leave the fan running a little bit longer, because what's essentially happening is you have a wet damper, and then as soon as you turn off the fan, it closes and it freezes. So if you just run it long enough, it should dry out enough where there's just be kind of like a light layer of frost where that won't happen. Next thing you could probably do with that is just get a stronger fan to help blow things open. But I mean, if it's frozen shut and you're not running the fan long enough, there's nothing you can do about that. And yeah, it's just one of those things too. If the wind is blowing a certain way, or you get like a high humidity weather system in or whatever. Like, I mean, unfortunately, there's no actual like 100% solution for something like that.
Yeah, that's my least favorite part of, well, I guess in other words, when I have to explain that to a client, it's always difficult, right? It's difficult to explain to them something, or explain to them that this is not something that we have full control over, right? And so same goes for when I describe frost buildup in the attic, right? I say you could expect to find small amounts, but when we get -40 and then +10, and then say -40 a week later, it wreaks havoc, and there's not a whole lot you can do to control it completely.
Yeah, but you could definitely mitigate things. I'm of the school of thought where it's like, if you have enough insulation, you have enough ventilation, you can get through these times without any issues. Right. So I mean, I mean, we always work at it, and we've never had a person come back to us and keep saying that they just never were able to fix it. Like we always were able to, at the end of the day, get it manageable at the very least. And yeah, but what I like to say is that, hey, maybe we don't have all the answers, and if you find an answer, let us know, because we want to. I mean, if there is a way to stop dampers from freezing shut, 100% of the time, I want to know about it, because then we'll do it. But at this point in time, we don't have a total solution for that.
Yeah, you have upgraded bath fans. You can switch between different levels of CFM. Having it set to the highest CFM rating, which I believe to be 110 CFM on the best fans you can find. Running that constantly, like you said, eliminating all the moisture would prevent freezing, but the warm air that would be stagnant inside the gooseneck, whether or not that would still cause the damper to freeze shut is one thing.
Well, some people just take the damper out and they never have an issue after that. But I mean, I think that you need that damper to prevent the cold air rollback. Another issue I've heard is that if your bathroom fan is too powerful, it can actually cause problems too, because now it's like sucking the air from outside the bathroom, and it's like, I mean, I think it's always doing that a little bit, but certainly, apparently, like, you can have too much CFM. You got to make sure that you are matching the CFM to the square footage of your bathroom.
Yeah, precisely. So whether or not that's something I should look into, because what I reference most often is the bath fan sizing is the name of the video that I show to clients.
Right.
It's only a minute long, but it describes how you need CFM that matches the square footage of the bathroom. Does not talk about whether or not, if multiple fans are present, whether or not they should share the total square footage between both units, or both fans should be a certain level of CFM because of the bathroom. That's something that I haven't really looked into a whole lot. But they do point out in that video that you do need to have adequate space below the door itself. There needs to be at least 3/4 of an inch from the floor to the bottom of the door itself to allow for fresh air intake.
Right. That makes
so
sense.
If these fans are running, if they're very high capacity fans and they're running full steam ahead, you shouldn't have, you would naturally draw air from other areas. But yeah, I don't really even know if they build bathrooms fans that exceed 110 CFM or not.
Right.
That's hard to say.
Well, that's no. I mean, there's so much that goes into it, and I think we've learned a lot. We've stayed curious, and we continue to stay curious about resolving these issues, and we're kind of like a fine wine. We're getting better with time. I don't think, but I know that we're better than the vast majority of companies in the city, and we should be the number one contact when it comes to attic condensation issues and roofing problems and eaves troughs and siding and all that stuff, because you're going to get a good, reliable job. And like you said, if there is a warranty issue, we're not going to leave them, abandoned to have to hire a different company. And I think that's probably one of the most embarrassing things that can happen, is when, you don't do a good job and the company, and then the client has to hire another company. I have been stuck at certain points where we had this one warranty call. It was with a tile roof, and we're not I wouldn't consider us tile experts, but we can get the job done in most cases. But we had this one client, and we were trying for, I don't know, I'm going to say almost a year to stop this damn leak from leaking outside. And eventually, I called a tile guy that was apparently pretty good, and I paid him out of my pocket, and we got it fixed for him. So yeah, I mean, but I still took it on the initiative on myself to outsource and find somebody that could do the job properly. And we haven't heard back since, so I think we did a pretty good job then.
Right, yeah, never hearing from a client after our initial contact or when the job is finished is the goal.
That's good news.
Essentially, unless they're leaving a positive review. We certainly don't want to hear from people.
Yeah, so. we want to, I mean, I always say to them, I hope I don't hear from you again, but I'll be happy to take your call. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so.
We prioritize pre-existing clients, of course. And if they're contacting us with problems or with visual issues, and of course, it's a top priority of ours to rectify these issues as soon as possible, because it'd be a very, very easy way to fold a business if clients have problems that are directly related to workmanship or product install, and the company decides to disregard these concerns. And
Well, the damage gets worse in time, and you
Yeah.
could be held liable for that. And I mean, it's just warranty calls with us are always get priority over anything else. And if that's why we get there fast. We mitigate the damages, and we take care of everybody. And don't let things pile up. That's the main objective. But the only time I will basically downgrade a warranty call from top priority is if it seems pretty minor, and then we have other people that are having basically emergencies inside their house. So warranty isn't always number one, but it is. It does get the highest of priority
of
during
course.
typical.
Never leave
times.
a client hanging, of course. I mean, if we don't get back to you as soon as you'd like us to, it's because we either have a lot of other emails or clients to deal with. But yeah, you're never left wanting or
Right.
waiting for an extreme amount of time. So
Yeah. No, that's the name of the game. But you know what? Nobody's perfect. Everybody screws up, and it's how you deal with the problem after the fact, which is the way to go. How you do things. But I suppose we should wrap it up. We do have a guest coming on next Thursday. It's going to be, I believe it's Lindsay with Promotional Bridge. She makes all of our promotional products, some stuff like these really nice whiskey glasses here. I really like these. I'm actually going to
that
take
was
one.
from Promotional Bridge.
Promotional Bridge.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Nice.
there it is. Holds a cigar there. Oh, I got a little beep. What does that mean?
So did I.
What the heck was that? You got a bunch of notifications coming in to the right there.
Oh my goodness, I think that might have been what it is. 69xxx.life.
Oh,
A bunch of spam comments.
oh wow.
Wow,
Well,
thanks.
we'll
Thanks,
take
spam comments.
We'll take whatever we can get.
It's traffic. It is traffic,
it's
right?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I don't think I'm going to take one of these for myself. I really like this
They are nice.
this setup here, and I was thinking about doing a cool little skit with these. But anyways, stay tuned. We have Promotional Bridge making us a spin the wheel kind of contest thing we're going to be doing for everybody. So stay tuned for our little commercial we're going to run on that, and we're going to be offering a lot more prizes in cash going into the future. And we're also looking for more guests. So if you want to join the show, $300, and you get all kinds of benefits on the No Pain podcast. So thanks for tuning in, and bye for now.